Hello, good morning. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak to you all today. I don't often actually get opportunities to speak at events like this, so I'm super excited, and hopefully you get something out of this. Just before we get started, I was just going to ask, how many of you love your job? Everyone. Well, that's maybe not a fair reflection on the statistics we've got, but we'll come to that a little bit later on. But that's great to hear. So just before I'm getting started, I'm going to introduce myself. So I'm Robert. I'm up on the screen. Well, slightly younger version of myself is up on the screen. I'm here from Softworks. We are located near the networking lounge in the bottom right-hand corner of the conference. So anything that we go through today that we discuss that you want a little bit more detail on, please feel free to come over to the stand and we can discuss in a little bit more detail. I've been in the people technology sector for 13 years now. The last 11 of those have actually been with Softworks. Softworks as a company have actually been around since 1990, so 36 years, specialised in the area of workforce management. We have a global presence, so we have customers all around the world across every different type of industry. And a lot of what I'm going to talk about today is not just about the technology. Yes, we provide market-leading technology, but also it's about the people. And it's the combination of the technology with the people that is what sets us apart and why we've been in business for such a long time. And why we work with some fantastic customers, such as the ones that you're seeing on the screen right now. So, a minute ago we took a bit of a survey there of the people attending. So not, like I said, not the most accurate in the world, but recent surveys actually show us, well, recent and also not recent, that in fact less than half the UK workforce are actually happy or engaged at work. I find that really worrying. It's a very troubling statistic, especially when you look at the number that actually find themselves happy and engaged at work. That's such a small percentage, and a lot of people would probably put that down to the fact that the current sort of economic climate and the current wages in which employers are able to pay their employees probably can't keep up with the cost of living crisis that we're going through at the moment. But we probably know in this room that actually isn't the case. In fact, statistics actually show us that some of the main reasons why employees aren't engaged or aren't happy at work actually down to things like work-life balance, things like poor management, so listening to your employees, and things like not feeling valued. So something really simple about something, and I'll share a story about my own experience with this later on, but just not feeling valued can have a massive impact. And if we look at the monetary, the salary, the financial figures, it actually makes up a very small percentage. It features much lower down on the statistics that I'm showing here. So I mentioned earlier that I've been with Softworks for 11 years now. So the reason that I've spent the last decade with Softworks is actually, like I said, not a financial reason. It actually comes down to my own experience. So my background was actually in the British military. I spent sort of 12 years there. And one of the main reasons that I left is I had a young family at the time, and not so young now, growing up. But one of the reasons I wanted to play a really active role in my children's lives. I wanted to be there. I wanted to attend things like sports days. I wanted to be for all the things that you might expect. But I'm just one person. So yes, that's the reason why I sort of came to the sort of private sector, and the reason why I've stayed with Softworks for over a decade, because they were able to support that. But I'm just sort of one. I'm very small sort of percentage, and I completely understand that in fact that every single person requires something slightly different. Okay, so every single person needs a slightly different type of flexible working, or whether it's the way that they feel valued or engaged. The problem is, this actually leads to what is probably a bigger issue, and that is the fact that everybody thinks about the staff well-being, but when it comes to HR professionals, I feel actually sometimes we get forgotten within the sector a little bit. Businesses will listen to and understand that in order to attract and retain top talent, such as with Softworks, with myself, we need to offer those flexible working options. However, as time goes on, we need to offer more and more types of flexible working options, more and more well-being incentives, more and more individual preferences and the need to listen to what an individual employee actually requires. However, all of that falls under one sort of group of people, which is sort of HR professionals, you guys, right? So you're now actually expected to balance business goals with complex individual needs, such as I've described earlier. You're managing more data, more requests, and more expectations than ever before. And for the majority of businesses, certainly the ones that I've been speaking to, I actually find that this has now actually gone beyond that sort of tipping point. However, it isn't all doom and gloom. There is a solution to this. And the solution is, and as we're at the HR Tech event, I think it's pretty obvious what that's going to be, but it's to utilize technology to be able to listen to and adapt, to automate and track and predict, prepare, to actually remove that strain on HR teams, allowing the whole workforce themselves to focus on what you do best and actually fall in love with what you do again. I know at the beginning I asked how many of you sort of love your jobs, and I appreciate some other people have just sort of turned up. So we already said that due to that strain, just the average workforce, 50% of them are not engaged. Well, by utilizing the latest in technology, we can actually make a massive difference there. So it's not to actually scale back on expectations. It's not about actually reducing what is needed around listening to employees, but it's about utilizing the latest and greatest in technology in order to listen and adapt, automate and predict and prepare. What technology exists? Well, as I mentioned at the beginning, I'm here from Softworks, and we have some market-leading innovative solutions in order to help with this sort of problem. As I said, I haven't got a huge amount of time. I think we've got 8 minutes left, so I'll go through some of these options now. If you want any more details on it, please come over to our stand by the networking lounge, and we're more than happy to go through it into more details. But just to sort of go through a highlight of sort of 6 key screens within the system, 6 key areas that can actually help with this. Firstly, employee sensors or questionnaires. So by needing to listen to employees, what often happens is you find HR teams are having to have multiple one-to-ones, being able to listen to and write down and keep track of all those individual needs. I mentioned my own by wanting to attend things like sports days. Well, that's just mine, and there's so many different going on. By using employee sensors, we're able to see that data, we're able to analyze it in real time, and we're able to track each individual's needs so that we can adapt things like our flexible working arrangements easily and automate it, like what I'll get into slightly more. Next screen then, we can actually go another step further then. So when we come to the scheduling area, we can actually listen to and give employees the ability to put in their preferences. So when they wouldn't or when they would mind working outside of their core hours, so that when we're replacing them, we're replacing them for absence. We're not bringing in someone that said specifically that they were not able to do, I don't know, the Friday evening shift because I don't know, they're wanting to attend a sports day, like in my example earlier. But by giving this and placing this on the employees themselves, it means those one-to-ones that we talk about, yes, we can still run them, but we're able to keep track of that data, and we're able to adapt the schedules in real time, meaning we're saving yet more time so you can focus on what you do best. Next screen. Mentioned about putting it onto the employees to send when they might be available outside, but what about we can actually completely automate the scheduling. We can then not only ensure that we're having the right skills, the right competencies that are still current, which is really, really important, in the right place, but we can actually apply things like your fair distribution rules that you might have, making sure that we're not giving somebody the Friday late shift every week in, week out. But again, because our particular system is completely configurable, what might be considered fair distribution to use could be different to someone else. So being able to configure that, being able to adapt to your workforce is what's really important. Self-rostering, yeah, so we can automate the rostering, but let's go another step further and actually give employees the ability to roster themselves. Now this can be through the self-rostering like I've got on the screen, but it can even be down to things like shift swaps. So it doesn't have to be a full self-rostering, but allowing employees to actually shift swap, but giving you the ability to actually put that on the employee, but still applying all the important rules that you would have within yourself. Perhaps you want to allow the shift swapping, but you want to make sure that you're covered for things like first aid at all points within the day, making sure that the two people that are wanting to shift swap both have the same skills and competencies to be able to allow that to happen. Next on there then is actually my favorite screen in the system. I was always going to find a way to fit this into this particular presentation. So this is an action manager screen. So this is a way to actually deal with exceptions in real time from one screen within the system. I like to think of it as my fully actionable to-do list. Okay, so you can define exactly what you want within here, what the sections are, and what information you want, and we can actually get it down to a point where you can deal with those exceptions with one click, rather than having to wait for that last minute before payroll and then having to chase everybody and chase everyone's manager to find out what's actually going on. And then finally, it wouldn't be a technology talk in 2026 if I didn't mention AI. Well, this is really exciting. I think a lot of people get put off with AI tools and where they're going, but I see it as a huge advantage, and it's something that at Softworks we're investing in heavily. We have a number of tools available, including the availability predictor that we have on the screen. So this is so powerful. This means we're not only able to see what absences have happened historically, but we're able to use and utilize AI technology to be able to actually predict when those absences are going to happen, so that we're able to adapt to your workforce, to your requirement before it actually happens. So, as I mentioned, only 15 minutes today, so I'm going to have to summarize. If you do have any more questions on any of those screens, please come over to us, HH18. We are just by the networking lounge in the bottom right-hand corner of the form we'll be looking at. But to summary then, so when used effectively, technology doesn't actually replace the human side of AI, HR. As I mentioned at the beginning, something that we have as our mission statement is not just our technology, but also our people and our insights. Well, it's the same. We practice what we preach, right? So with yourselves, this is utilizing technology in order to remove that administrative pain, is being able to free up your time and energy, something that I hear quite a lot, and it allows you as HR professionals, and in fact the wider workforce as a whole, to actually focus on what you do best. Ultimately, it creates a workforce where people feel supported, valued, and able to reconnect with what they do. Final slide then. So, to summarize in full, this allows, because when organizations truly listen to, adapt to their workforce, work stops becoming something people endure and starts becoming something that they can actually fall in love with again. Excellent, so that's what I said. Did anyone actually have any questions on that? Excellent. Well, as I've said a few times, and I'll sort of say again, as I only had sort of 15 minutes today, I wanted to make sure I covered all the screens that I showed. But if you do have any other questions, if you're sort of walking past right now and you can see the screen and you want some more details, HH18 by the networking lounge down the bottom right-hand corner of the core. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody.